In 2006, when I got a fellowship at the Berkman Center at Harvard University, and I was obliged to come up with a project, I came up with one that focused on the customer side counterpart of the one place where relationship is the middle name in all of business. It was called Customer Relationship Management, CRM. We're all familiar with it. Either we're familiar with it in our businesses or we're familiar with it as customers who encounter it through call centers and junk mail and come-ons of various kinds. Customer relationship management was very high-minded when it started, but it's mostly about sales. It's not really about the relationship. The relationship is mostly with CRM about deflecting customers and minimizing the contact between companies and their customers. But what if we are relating? What if a relationship actually happens? So what we did with something called Project VRM, which stands for Vendor Relationship Management, was encourage development of tools and services that made customers independent of all sellers, but better able to engage with them. So we would have our own tools, like we have email, or like we have our browsers, that are ours and not theirs, and that are common ways of dealing with many different vendors that work for them and work for us. So tools for independence and engagement. And as of now, there are probably 100 of these. Most of them are on our wiki, about 70 of them are on our wiki at Project VRM. And they go into a whole lot of different categories. There are many different types that we have there. But what I'd like to do is sort of sort that down to just a few, just two. There is in CRM, it's by grace of CRM, from a guy named Esteban Kolsky, by way of a company called Right Now that got bought by Oracle, a drawing of the customer journey. Often the customer journey or the sales journey or the product journey is drawn as a circle. It's for sale up here, you go looking for it, you see the advertising and the marketing, and then you buy it and you own it for a while, and then you dump it and you get another one and it looks like this. Well, what they did is they took that circle, twisted it, turned it into an infinity loop, where the journey goes like this, and you're buying over here and you're owning over here. And it says buy here and own here. And what I like about that concept is that buy and own are verbs that the customer has. They're things the customer does. The customer buys, the customer owns. Now, all of us in this room are on the buy side for the most part. We're selling things. It's on that side of that loop. Now, in VRM, we've had a bunch of different ways of addressing that, but there's one in particular I'd like to talk about called intent casting. Intent casting is where I can say, for example, I need a stroller for twins in the next 2 hours in Union Square who's coming through. I am advertising to the marketplace. I am a qualified lead on my terms, and I can be known to those, like say I have a loyalty program going with say Target and Toys R Us, and I'm known to them, but I'm not known to everybody else. I'm anonymized to the rest of them. I have terms for the use of my data. They're agreed upon, they're straightforward. But what I am, not only a qualified lead, I have very high quality data going from me to them. Now what I'd like you guys to imagine is what you could do in a new business on the customer side to help them advertise. Because this business is going to exist. This business is going to exist in a big way because money on the table is going to attract the sales money to it. It's going to be a new factor you're going to be dealing with in the marketplace. So that's one of the tools that we're going to deal with targeting. We'll do the targeting as well as you guys doing the targeting. So that's one. On the buy side is intent casting. On the own side, we have a vast green field. Here's how that green field looks. If you imagine what you have in your life and what you're doing with your life, you own everything full time. You're only buying a little bit at a time. And like in the advertising business, we're actually addressing a fairly small wedge of the pie of what people are doing. We're not buying most of the time, but we are owning. And owning is a green field because we can add all kinds of value to the owning experience that is not there right now. So in that space, in that other loop, the owning loop, there have been for the last 7 years developing a number of programs, a number of open source development code bases, and a number of companies, things called personal data vaults and lockers and services and stores, personal data stores, PDSs. But an interesting thing has happened in the last 6 months, 8 months. An operating system has showed up for these called Cloud OS by Phil Windley, the guy I mentioned earlier, said 1995 invention of the cookie, that guy. He's the former CIO of Utah. He's an entrepreneur. He's in Salt Lake. And it's called Cloud OS. So Cloud OS is a cloud for you and me. It is also a cloud for the Internet of Things. Everything can have its own cloud. Now, an interesting thing about that is we can give it the cloud that it has, or it can be sold with the product. So imagine, for example, if it's sold, a cloud gets a cloud of data, a cloud of connections, a cloud of even an API, whatever, goes into this cloud when, say, Sony makes a screen and sells it to you. It goes in, Sony makes a screen, it's got the cloud on it, maybe there's a QR code on it you can scan, or a URL, doesn't matter what it is. It comes down the distribution pipe, it falls out from Amazon or whoever at the other end into the bucket called the customer, no longer just the consumer. And in the past, all you had there was a number to call or a website to go to, but nothing very interactive. And when you did interact, you interacted with a script that was meant to treat you as a template. But how about if that thing comes down the pipe with, here's not only all of the owner's manuals, here's all the connections you'll need, here is the way you can get automatic updates to the firmware, here is a space where we can add whatever we want at your grace, the customer, for the fullness of time. What's that like? On the customer side, the customer can put a new cloud on, say, an old screen and say, or a camera. That's one of my favorite. I'm a heavy photographer. And I want to tell Canon, here's everything I've done with this camera. Here's the 50,000 photos I have on Flickr. Here's the problem that I had with this particular camera. Here's why I'm not buying the 5D Mark III yet until you leapfrog Nikon. And this is good intelligence that can come from the customer to the manufacturer, or for that matter, the seller along the way. Now, if you look at what's happening on the customer side, that's a pile of data that is very high quality, very high value, that can be leveraged. It can be partnered. It can help your programmatic stuff. It can also maybe direct whole new businesses into addressing the product as a platform for a relationship. We've never had that before. This is something new. The product actually being the platform for the relationship between the customer and the company, and really rich heuristics going in both directions. So those two things, intent casting and the personal cloud, also known as Cloud OS, are two new developments that I think should be really interesting to you guys and have some impact on you.